Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm here with two book reviews. These are both shorter books, so I figured I would just put them together into one video. And these are books that I've read pretty recently and I really enjoyed both of them. And I think that they are both kind of under the radar books. So lots of things that I personally enjoy getting checked off here, and I think that a lot of you guys would enjoy these books as well. So let's just jump into the books. So the first one is called Invasion of the Spirit People by Juan Pablo Villalobos. This is translated from Spanish by Rosalind Harvey. This is a book that I've owned actually now for a couple of years. I've been slowly reading Juan Pablo Villalobos' novels as they have been getting translated into English, but I fell behind because life, and I still have one sitting on my shelf that I need to read. Anyways, I'm a big fan of this author, and in this book you are following this character named Gaston who lives in this unnamed city, and he makes his living as a farmer basically who sells to various local restaurants and things like that. He is an immigrant to the area and he kind of grows quote unquote exotic fruits and vegetables on his land that he sells. And one of his really good friends named Max basically falls into a deep depression after he is being forced to close down his restaurant. And Max's son Paul is a scientist who is off on an expedition in the Arctic. Gaston also has a dog named Kitten who has been getting very sick. And so the story is partially about Gaston getting help for his dog. It's also about Gaston getting help for his friend Max. He's hoping to maybe buy the restaurant himself from the people who have bought it from Max, or maybe find another spot so that way Max can open up another restaurant. And then over the course of this, there's also some things that come up with Paul, Max's son, that they have to deal with. And yeah, that's kind of the higher level of this book. But there's a lot more going on here that I don't really want to say what it is because I think it's more interesting if you just kind of go along for the ride. And the one hint I'll give is aliens may or may not be involved, which you might be able to pick up from the cover. So yeah, that's kind of the high level of this book. This is a really great read. I think that if you've read Juan Pablo Villalobos before, which I know his book Down the Rabbit Hole gained a little bit of popularity here on BookTube a number of years ago. At this point, it's probably been 10 years, honestly. And so I feel if you are an OG booktuber or someone who's been watching booktube for a long time and you remember hearing about that book, I think that if you like that book, you'll like this book as well. There's a lightness and a humor to this book that I think gets translated really well, or I think it gets translated really well. Obviously, I haven't read this in the original Spanish, but I really like the translation here because it's very funny, very personable. Rosalind Harvey has translated a few of Juan Pablo Villalobos' books. I think there's a note in here that says she's translated all of them except one potentially. And so I feel when there's that relationship between an author and a translator, there's probably some level of familiarity that comes through, as well as you are learning and writing and translating another person's words. This is a book that has a lot of really great themes in it. It's exploring friendship and family and found family. It's exploring love and relationships. It's exploring immigrants and immigration and outsiders. It's looking at things like xenophobia, but that's not the only thing that it's about. It's looking at how having friends and people on your side can just get you through the difficult points in life. And it's just a really fun read. I just loved my experience with this book. Again, it's a pretty short novel. I think it's 200 and something pages, but it's also keeps a pretty nice pace to it. And I genuinely had no idea how everything was going to turn out in here. Like I said, I don't want to talk about all the things that happen in this book, but there's hints to things like aliens and stuff like that, that it takes some really interesting turns and those things become themes for other ideas, obviously. And it was just so entertaining that I genuinely didn't know how it was all going to wrap up. But I honestly really love the way that the story went and the progression of the characters and all of these different things. So yeah, I just think that this is honestly just a really fantastic novel or novella that hits a lot of themes that I personally really enjoy, but is also just a quick, entertaining read that I think a lot more people should pick up. The other book I have to talk about is How to Commit a Postcolonial Murder by Nina McConigley. I mentioned this book very briefly in my vlog that I posted recently, that I picked this one up and I really enjoyed it. This one I came across because when I went to go see Tayari Jones speak, one of the questions someone asked her was like, what's a book that you've really enjoyed recently? And so she shouted this one out. She actually has a blurb on here. And so I put it on hold on my library after hearing her shout it out, just because I was like, this title alone is calling me. And I got it from the library, read it, and then literally the day that I finished it, I found it at the local indie I was visiting. And so I was like, this feels like a sign. So I bought it because I think that she deserves my money. So this story takes place in the 1980s in Wyoming. You are following two sisters. I mean, the story is told from one specific sister's point of view, the younger sister, Georgie. You basically know at the beginning of the book that they have murdered their uncle, to keep things very blunt. And so it's about the sisters who are half Indian, half American. They Indian as in from India. And so it's a story about them being sort of like these mixed race kids in rural Wyoming, which in, 2026 is probably a rare thing. So I can't imagine what it was like in the 1980s. It's a story about them as sisters and their relationship. It's a bit of a coming of age story. It's a story about family and extended family in general. It's kind of a little bit of a mystery book. Not really a mystery, but it's kind of like this, how did these two young girls end up murdering their uncle sort of question happens in here. And so there's sort of that is the running plot line that keeps the story moving forward. But that's not really the point. In the end, it's a story about these sisters and trauma and being sort of outsiders in this world and family and things like that. Similar themes to the recent book, because those are things that I all really enjoyed. This book is really, really well done. It's really beautiful, really heartbreaking, but it's also funny. It's clever, I would say, more than funny. It's very has these clever lines throughout it, interesting commentary. One of the things that I just at a personal level really enjoyed is the fact that I believe that the characters in here are Tamil. And so as someone who is also South Indian, I really enjoyed all the references that it makes. There's one specific chapter in here where the main character is talking to the audience. This entire book is written as the character talking to you, the reader. And so one of the chapters is specifically about the things that you probably assume about the character because she's Indian, but actually aren't true for her personally and for her family, which I very much relate to as a person of South Indian descent who's also an Indian Christian. There's a lot of things people assume are true of all Indians, but it's not. But yeah, that's just an aside that's for me personally. But yeah, overall, I think that this was a really fantastic read. Again, really, really short. I read this in a couple of days. I will say trigger warnings in here for assault, sexual assault. So if you are someone who's very sensitive to those subject matters, maybe be careful with this one. It doesn't get really explicit, but assault does happen in this book. But I think that it's more about the aftermaths of those traumatic events than the event itself, if that gives you any indication of whether or not you would actually be interested in reading this book. But yeah, this book was absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend it. This is a 4-star read for me. Then I definitely think that this should be on more people's radar. And again, very short book, very quick read, and worth the, amount of time that it took to read it for sure. So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on those two short books. Let me know down in the comments below if you've read either of these books and what your thoughts were on them. Or if you have any questions, feel free to leave that down in the comment section as well. So yeah, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.